falling off a high cliff, screaming and shouting that she wants to live and she wishes to live. She clenches her hand, and as she does so, she changes appearance and she keeps the change. Suddenly, she wakes up on the floor, as the normal mindset of a human would connote. She sees injury on her, and she tries to wrap it up with a piece of clothing. She wonders if she has any other injury, and she touches her body, but to her shock, she has no injuries. Our protagonist, a young girl, Mitsuha, wonders what is wrong. I mean, it is impossible to fall that height and not get wounded or have any broken bones. Well, miracles happen, and at that point, where everything seems impossible, there's an atom of possibility. Suddenly, she looks around her, and she sees a very big moon. She exclaims as she wonders why the moon is that big. I think that triggers her to wonder about the impossibility, despite not wanting to say the impossible word. It's not like she has a choice. So she screams loudly, wondering where she is. She tries to rewind her day. She vividly remembers that a few minutes ago she was falling off a very high cliff, and she tried to rewind it further. She remembers that she was fighting with some men around the cliff, and they kicked her off the bridge, and she's falling off the bridge into water filled with bricks. How did she survive? If she actually survived, then where is she? In a further flash back to how it all started, naturally, Mitsuha is a young, intelligent girl, born into a family with an elder brother. She remembers when her teacher told her she didn't get her college admission. He told her he thought she would get admission easily because of her intelligence, but she didn't. He comments that she had gone through a lot, and he is right. She remembers when she was standing in front of her parent and brother's corpse. With all the sympathizers wonder how she would survive in this cruel world without her parents and wondering how she would live without her elder brother, who she is so close with. She has indeed gone through a lot, but yet her will to live is super strong. While standing by the new environment, wondering what has gone wrong and where exactly she is, she tries to think of what her brother would have done in that scenario. She figuratively remembers her late brother and asks him what he thinks about the situation she's in. He says that when something like that happens and you remove the possibility, what is left is the impossibility. And you have to make do with the impossibility. So her brother tells her the possible option will be either she is dead and her spirit is wandering around the forest, or she is in a coma and she is dreaming of the new environment that she hopes she survives. Upon removing the possible option, there is yet one option that is, however rare, but cannot expressly be called impossible. Yes, it's the same thing you are thinking, that she is in another world. She wonders if that's possible, but due to her will and want to live, she decides to cling to that impossibility. She thinks of pinching herself so she can know if she's alive or not. But she looks at the injury on her hand and feels the pain sensation. So she concludes that she's alive, and the worst that can happen is that she is in another world. At least hunger also exists in her new world, as she's so hungry she walks around the forest thinking of what to do or what to eat. She tells herself that she must survive, and if not for any other reason, she must survive for her family. She must live for the people that have died. So she keeps walking around. After walking till the evening period, she eventually wanders into a garden, and a young girl, Colette, who is picking some vegetables in the forest, sees her from afar. Colette stops what she's doing and she assumes there is someone coming by. Immediately, Mitsuha shows up. She sees Colette and she collapses. She looks at Colette as the young girl runs to her and bends down to take care of her, despite the fact that all her vegetables are falling to the ground. Mitsuha looks at Colette and sees she is really human. Well, you can't blame her after walking for 2 days without food or water. She had seen a rabbit 2 days ago and a deer the day before, and she was lucky to sight a human this time around. She looks at Colette and closes her eyes. The young girl takes her home to her family. She eventually wakes up on the following day, and she sees a roof that is much different from the other one they use in modern Japan. She looks around, trying to figure out her new home, and she sees Colette beside her. She tries to talk to her, but Colette replies in a language that she doesn't understand. Since she is in an unfamiliar house, there is no doubt the house belongs to Colette, and she had saved her when she was almost dead. She appreciates Colette in her language, but Colette doesn't understand her. She figures they can't communicate well. At that time, Colette's mother calls out for her. She hears the girl's mother call her Colette, and she assumes that's her name. Well, she's right. Colette's mother brings her food. She appreciates them as she first drinks the water and satisfies herself with it. She smiles brightly at them to appreciate them, and she sits well to eat the meal. As she takes a spoon of the stew, she feels it's watery, and she gives an unhappy look. She sees that they are still looking at her. So she fakes a smile and says the food is nice regardless. It's not like she has any other choice though. She continues with the stew and eats the dough that comes with it and chicken. She remembers her brother's warning that she shouldn't eat rashly, but at that point, she didn't have a choice. Although the food isn't to her satisfaction, she concludes to eat it, saying that hunger is the greatest reasoning. That's a quote for days. She continues her bland food, and as she eats the chicken, she remembers that she has an injury on her hand before she collapsed. She checks her hands, and she sees the injury has healed. She wonders when it happened and how it happened. So she tries to ask Colette how many houses she had slept in. She speaks to the girl in Japanese language, but Colette doesn't understand her. She repeats the question more slowly, but it's still not any better, so she decides it will be better if she gets to know her first by her name. Trying to describe by her hands, she points to Colette, telling her she is Mitsuha. She uses the finger description for a while until Colette gets what she means. When Colette says her name, she hugs her passionately, and her strong bones crush Mitsuha. Mitsuha wonders how she's so strong, and she struggles to push her away. Mitsuha finishes her meal and Colette's mother packs off. Colette's father arrives. He buys his young daughter a teddy bear, and Colette runs to hug him tightly. They all speak in languages that Mitsuha doesn't understand, but she could figure the man is Colette's father. She wonders if the tight hug didn't crush him as the hug did to her. She pulls her cover clothes up, and she sleeps. I mean, she deserves the rest after all she's gone through. She eventually wakes up later and she checks her body to confirm if she is feeling well. She realizes that she feels very strong and agile, so she decides to take a walk. While walking around the environment, she concludes that where they are looks more like the outskirts of the city rather than a new world, as it's totally different from what she could have expected. She feels her bowel movement and she knows she has to use the toilet. She looks around and she sees a building that looks like the toilet. She enters it, although she isn't expecting to see a water closet. She finishes her business there and she needs to clean up. She couldn't find tissue paper in the toilet. She comes out of the toilet holding the toilet paper she had kept in her skirt before her huge fall. She's glad that she's a fan of holding tissue paper. If not, she would have been stranded. However, she feels like she stinks, and she decides to walk to the market and put on an air freshener, although she wonders if they will have something like that there. As she walks around, Colette runs to her screaming her name and telling her that she doesn't have the full strength to walk around as she does, so she should return home. Mitsuha tries to tell her that she now has the strength. She jumps and somersaults to prove her point, and she falls. They both begin to laugh. She notices Colette is carrying the same basket she was carrying when she saved her, and she assumes that Colette is on her way to get edible vegetables, like the last time. So she offers to follow her. They enter the house to prepare, and upon coming back outside, she overhears the conversation between Colette's father and a villager, and she hopes she can understand their language. On the way to the forest, she tries to say some words and makes Colette interpret them, but she still doesn't get it. Upon arriving at the forest, Colette starts harvesting edible leaves, and she also shows her some leaves so she can differentiate them. Mitsuha finds it difficult to catch up, and she sees her brother telling her that it is how to take care of a young sister, and that's also the stress he goes through to take care of her. Mitsuha eventually gets a grip of how to harvest the vegetable. As they do so, Colette feels that a dangerous animal is coming. She alerts Mitsuha, who looks around and sees a pack of wolves. She remembers her brother's words that wolves walk in packs, and she assumes the wolves are probably a divorced family. She thinks of what to do, and she sees a tall tree. She remembers that Colette is strong, and she tells Colette to climb the tree. She puts her on the tree, and when Colette attempts to drag her there too, she tells her she can't climb. She runs away to distract the wolves, and unfortunately she falls off. She sees a stone and holds it to hit the wolves, but figures she will die. Again, she screams that she doesn't want to die yet and begs for help. Suddenly, she disappears and wakes up in her brother's bedroom. She wonders what's going on, and she feels this sense of need. She feels she has to do something to save Colette, and she walks around the house and takes a slingshot. She also takes a pepper spray and a knife. As she attempts to find her way back to the second world, she wonders if there is a need for her to do so. I mean, she's eventually back home. Why should she take herself through that hardship again? But her brother encourages her that she shouldn't leave a cute girl hanging. Meanwhile, in the forest, the tree Colette is standing on is almost breaking. The wolf is about to jump on her and she screams Mitsua's name. Mitsua arrives, and she uses the slingshot to hit the wolf, then distracts the mother to a side and sprays her to distract her. She then goes to stab her. After killing the mother, she collapses. When she collapses, she wakes up in another realm. She sees a being who tells her that he travels between worlds. He says that when she was screaming that she didn't want to die, her will to live cut through his energy and took some of his powers. And if he takes it back, it will send her to a vegetative state. She begs him not to take it back, and he agrees. He tells her that she now has the ability to travel between worlds. She tells him about how she heals fast, and he tells her she got the ability too. He asks her if she needs anything else, and she asks for the ability to understand languages. He gives her and leaves. She wakes up by the bed beside Colette. Colette speaks in a language that she understands, and she also speaks in the same language. Colette tells her she killed the two small wolves, and they brought the remains to the village. Her father gives Mitsua some gold as a reward. Mitsua goes outside to think of what to do with her new power. She asks for her brother's advice, and he tells her that if she returns to her Earth, she will use most of the money her parents left her to sponsor her education, so she needs money. She decides to stay in that world and work for money by bringing things from her world. She feels she would have all she needs for retirement when she earns 2 billion yen, which is about 80,000 gold, and she decides to earn for her retirement. Coming back to that world as the wolf-killing hero, she needs a story to tell, and she needs a reason why she is in their world. So when Colette calls her and asks her about herself and where she's from, she tells Colette that she is from another part of the country, a distant part, and she had visited their city by boat, but she missed her way around after walking for a while and wandering. She says the reason she can now understand their language is that she has regained the memory she lost during the encounter. Colette feels bad for her. She says that she had kept her in the trouble of saving her from wolves despite her stressful journey, and she hugs her again. Colette's bones are very strong, which makes her hugs extremely painful, and it seems like she is squeezing Mitsua. Mitsua begs her to stop with the hug, saying that she will break. The following day, she goes to meet Colette's father, Mr. Tobias, and she greets him. She sees him struggling to light the fire by hitting two stones together, and she figures that matches and lighter will do the magic when she imports it. She walks around the city trying to see how she will develop her business skills. She enters the bathroom, and as usual, the smell of the bathroom annoys her. She comes out claiming that she needs to get a deodorant as fast as possible. While she is angry at the toilet, two villagers come to meet her, calling her by her new nickname, which is Wolf Killer. They ask her if she's doing well, and she tells them she's getting stronger. She figures that's the best way for her to gather all the information she needs to make her wealth in that new world. So she asks them about her city. They also tell her they have heard that she visited from a distant country, and they wonder why a foreigner is in their city. She asks them about their king, and they tell her about Mr. Bose. She wonders if he is their king, but they correct her that he is the feudal lord, Count Klaus von Bose. They tell her that he is nice, and whenever they have a very low return on farm product, he will give them subsidies. He also built a road for them, so they would find it easier to transport their goods and products. She figures that he is a nice man, and he would be the key to her jackpot in that city. She tells them that she would like to visit the capital, and as she speaks, she doesn't know that Colette is behind her and listening to her conversation. The men ask her why she wants to go to the capital, and she tells them it's because she has promised her friends that they will meet at the capital. They tell her that she is too young for such a journey, and the carriage to the capital will come the next morning. And the journey is for about 7 days, which is too much for a small child like her. She corrects them that she isn't a child, and they mock her, telling her that if she isn't a child, then they are old men. But she claims that where she came from, she is an adult. She asks what time the carriage will come, but they say morning, and morning is morning. It's really difficult for her to relate to them due to their difference in culture. As she asks, Colette bumps into the conversation screaming no. She takes Mitsuha inside, telling her she can't allow her to leave, and squeezing her as she does. Her mother intervenes and tells her to stop spreading Mitsuha. Mitsuha tells her she will miss her. She tells Colette that they have gone through a lot together, and she remembers how she saved Colette from the wolves, and also how Colette saved her from dying. She tells Colette that she saved her from dying and that she is indebted to her. But she still has to go. She has to return to the capital so she can meet her friends that separated from her during her journey. She promises Colette that she will come back to her regardless, and she will be there for her. At that point, Colette has broken down in tears. She tells Colette to stop crying, and she promises that she will come back. She is sure Colette understands, so Colette shouldn't make it more difficult for her by crying. She claims she doesn't want to keep remembering Colette's crying face, so she wants them to separate with a laughing face. So Colette should smile for her so she can keep remembering Colette's smiling face. The young girl smiles at her and hugs her happily. Again, the hug squeezes her to the point of death. She screams at Colette, telling her she shouldn't hug her that way because if she continues with that, she would break and die. The following morning, the carriage arrives, as it has been predicted. She goes to meet the carriage rider, and she's sent off from the village by Colette and her parents. She pays the carriage driver a silver coin for the trip. As she enters the carriage, she thinks about her plans, and she feels if she sees Count Bose, her plans will surely become successful. She assumes that the aristocracy in that world is the same as on Earth, and according to the aristocracy level on Earth, Bose should be the second in command in that country, and if she meets him, she will be able to hold her route. Her brother cheers her on as she continues her plans. She sits to think, and a piece of her hair gets stuck on her nose, and she realizes she stinks. I mean smelling because she hasn't had her bath for some time. She feels she needs to visit Earth to have her bath and freshen up. She goes to the carriage driver and asks him to drop her off. He wonders why she wants to stop, and he convinces her otherwise. He tells her that place is far from the capital and asks why she does want to stop there. She lies to him that she has promised her friends that she will wait for them there. And if she doesn't wait for them there, they will get worried and start looking for her. So it's better if she waits there, like she had promised them. He warns her that the distance between that place and the capital is a long one, and she will have to walk for a long time before getting to the capital. She promises that she can walk well. He reluctantly stops her. She stands on the road, hoping to test the new power she has acquired. She says, "Take me to my room on Earth," and she finds herself in her room. She is so happy that she can use her teleportation skill. She immediately goes to the bathroom to clean up her body. She has her bath in the bathtub happily as she hasn't had that freshening bath in a long time. After bathing, she kickstarts her plan. She wears her clothes and leaves the house. She greets the neighbor telling her that she is going to work. She goes to buy a car and she stops at a store to buy a box. She decides to go to the bank for fundraising. As she calls it, she goes to the bank to collect some money and she collects it in cash. She then returns home with a box of money, goes out again, and she goes to the front of a foreign store. She sees a foreigner and she tries to speak to her in English to know if her language skills are working. She tells the woman that she is Mitsuha, and she asks for the woman's name, and she also asks for what the woman is from. After this, she returns home and sits with her computer to check if she can read foreign languages. She keeps reading the website. She belongs to a security operation because she wants to learn how to fight and protect herself in case she meets any thieves during her journey. She sees a company, Wolfang, and she wants to visit the company. However, the rules about teleporting is that she has to know the place she is going to before she can teleport there. She searches for the satellite operation, and she sees it's only showing the sky and not the ground, and she needs to see the ground that she is landing on before she can teleport. She sees the longitude and the latitude of the building, and she browses it to see the location. She then teleports to the location. She finds herself in a dustbin, and she comes out. She goes to the security operation, and she tips the security so they can direct her to the head. When she meets the leader, she feels nervous to talk to him, but she eventually introduces herself. She gives him the coin she has, and she also tells him she wants to learn how to shoot guns. She returns home. She concludes that although she can understand their language, she still finds it difficult to communicate, and she's scared of him. At the company, one of the workers speaks with the leader, asking him if he knows why Mitsuo wants him to teach her how to shoot a gun. He says he doesn't care about her reasons as long as she pays him well. He looks at the coin that she gave him and wonders where she got the coin from. He says he will help her price the coin. At home, she figures that the world she is teleporting to seems to be the medieval world, so she browses about how the medieval city works. She returns to the company for her training. The captain tells her the key point of shooting a gun, including that she must ensure her gun is pointed in the right direction. She must ensure she's not putting her hands on the trigger or anywhere around, and that she must ensure that she looks at her target well as the people behind her target so she can avoid shooting stray bullets. She asks about the coin, and he tells her that the coin is about $200. She asks him if he can accept payment in coins, and he tells her as long as it's original, he can take the payment. She tells him she will be bringing tens of thousands of such gold coins soon. Then she starts the training. He takes her to the training room, and she trains with the first type of bullet. She's nervous, and she shoots away from her target. She practices how to shoot another gun, and she also doesn't get how to do it. While browsing about the medieval periods, she sees that there are always thieves who stay in the forest to ambush the merchants who are coming to sell. She feels the need to continue her training. She wonders how much she will sell her goods, and she confides in her imaginary brother, who tells her to sell it low, but she says the reason she wants to sell it so is to have fun, and working is nothing without fun, so she has to put prices on it. During one of her training sessions, her brother tells her she doesn't need to kill, but she insists that she needs to kill the thieves because if she doesn't kill them, they may hurt another person. She draws an imaginary picture in her head of saving a woman and her child. She puts the attention in her shooting training, and she eventually gets it. She is preparing for her leave, and she goes to her mother's old jewelry. She sees that she can't get it yet, and she also goes to her father's portrait, and she bows to greet them. She leaves the house one morning and greets her neighbor. The older woman is glad that she is eventually feeling much better, and she's going to work well. She goes to a store, and she tells the seller that she wants to compete with her, and they should sew clothes for the competition. After she sews the clothes, Mitsuo realizes that she can't teleport to the capital because she doesn't know the capital, and there is also no map she wants to use. She buys a bike and she ensures no one sees her. She teleports on the bike and goes to where she last stopped. She rides the bike towards the city, and when she sees someone has noticed her and her bike, she teleports back home. She finds herself on her bed and she teleports again. She rides until she is closer to the capital, and she decides she will walk to the capital from that place. So she teleports back home, drops the bike. She teleports back to the other world and walks to the Count's gate. She sits disappointed after her visit to Count Bose. You must be wondering what had happened. Well, the visit turns out to be unfortunate for our dear protagonist. When she reaches the gate of Count Bose, she asks the security to confirm if she is indeed at the gate of Count Bose. They reply affirmatively, and she attempts to enter, telling them she is looking for Count Bose. A penny for her thoughts, as it's not easy as that to see the second highest feudal lord in the country. They ask her if she has an appointment with him, or if she has a prior engagement with him. She has none. She tells them she doesn't have an appointment or prior engagement with him. She tells them that she has no prior engagement or appointment with him, and the security closes the door, telling her she won't be allowed to see him and she should leave, which makes her sit depressed by the road. As she thinks about what to do, she sees a carriage passing by. She looks through the carriage and sees two elegant kids, a male and a female. She also sees that the villagers are looking at them with respect. So she asks the older woman beside her who the kids are, and the woman tells her they are the children of Count Bose. And they walk around the city like that so they can see if the city is still peaceful. She sees the picture of her imaginary brother again. He tells her there are two people in the world, the ones who wait for an opportunity to come to them, and the ones who create opportunity. Which one will she be? She picks the latter, the one who creates opportunity. She decides to find her way into Count Bose's manor. She teleports back home and she teleports to the road which the children's manor will pass when they are going home. She lays an ambush for them, and when they are almost getting to her, she lights a firecracker and distracts the horse, making it stagger. Then she lies on the ground after the horse has passed. She behaves as if the horse had hit her when it staggered, and the kids fall for her trap. Immediately they go to her and ask a servant to carry her into the carriage. They take her home and they lay her on the bed. Count Bose himself comes. His kids explain to him that they had mistakenly hit her with their carriage, and he shows remorse too. He asks his servant if she is fine, and the man tells him that she has no physical injury and can be assumed to be fine. But he insists that they should call a doctor to treat her. Before calling a doctor, she opens her eyes. She tells them she is fine, but Count Bose says she still needs to rest. He introduces himself as the Count and apologizes to her for what their horse has done for her. He bows to her as an apology, and the children follow suit. She comments that they are actually as lovely as the rumors about them had said. She tells them they do not need to be apologizing. Instead, she should be the one appreciating them for bringing her to their manor to take care of her. She tells them she will introduce herself later when she feels much better. She sleeps back. She wakes up later in the day, and she goes outside to join the family at their table. As she enters elegantly, Bose sees that her dress is quite different from the one he has ever seen in their city. He wonders if she is a foreigner and where she is from, if indeed she is a foreigner. She also admits that she needs to introduce herself, so she tells them her name is Mitsuha Vaughn, adding the title Vaughn to her name so it will show that she is noble. She tells them that she is a noble from a distant city in Japan, and she was traveling with her friends towards the city. But they were interrupted by thieves and they got separated. She tells him she had passed his city with no hopes, but some of the people in his country saved her and treated her till she was well. So, to appreciate their good work, she has decided to stop by his place and tell him about the good works of his citizens. Bose is flattered by her kind words. He's glad that a person who is noble and dresses that elegantly could visit him and give good words about his cities in front of his family members. His face lights up, and Mitsuha also realizes she is getting success in her disguise. She continues and tells him that she had earlier attempted to visit his mansion, but the guards didn't allow her in. He gets angry at the guards, asking one of the guards who was beside him about the person on duty that day, and asking why they didn't allow such a noble to enter his house. She chips in immediately, telling him that the guards did a great thing as they didn't know she was a noble, and they can't allow anyone who isn't of noble birth into his compound. So she would like to praise the guards instead of getting angry at them. Her composure, her poise, her elegance, and even the way she speaks with compassion makes the Count fall for her trap. He appreciates her for her good words, and he comments that she is more intelligent than she looks. She feels she has laid the groundwork, so all that remains now is the building to put on the groundwork. She tells him that she has decided to reward him for what his people have done for her. So she has a gift for him. She gives his guard the gift to give him, and Bose doesn't know what it is. Bose asks her what the gift is. She tells him it's a multi-purpose foldable knife. She unfolds the knife and they see all the smooth sides of it. He has never seen something like that before, and he is super excited and flattered. He tells her he must do something for her in return and asks her for her plans. She tells him she wants to go to the royal capital and she wants to start her journey now. He screams that it's too late for that journey, and he has found out that there is a carriage going to the royal capital the day after. and he would like her to join the carriage. She tells him that no matter how embarrassing it sounds, she doesn't have money to pay for a carriage. He looks at her and her dressing. He is sure she is from a very elite home, and he is convinced, also made sure by the knife. So he assumes that it is because she was separated from her colleagues. He asks her to spend the night there, and they will know what to do. He tells his guard to take her to her room. As she enters her room, she laughs that her mission is eventually successful. She dresses for dinner, and she wears the bead that she took from, and a very pretty gown. She goes outside to join them for dinner, and all eyes are on her. She looks so pretty, their eyes raise up. During the meal, Bose introduces her to his family, his wife, Iris, and his first son, Alexis, who is 17 years old. She silently comments that she is older than Alexis, his second son, Theodore, who is 15 years old, and his youngest daughter, Beatrice, who is 13. Beatrice tells her she can come to her if she has any issues, and she needs an older sister. She wonders if she looks younger than 13. She looks at Beatrice and her body, and she realizes she looks young, actually. Bose tells her she should eat freely, but as she takes a bite of the food, it still tastes horrible. She thinks about it as she eats. As she eats, Bose tells her he has a question for her, and he doesn't want her to think he is out for her head, and that she should please reply sincerely. He asks her who she is. She shivers as she hears the question. She thinks of the perfect answer that she will give that won't cause them to suspect her. She tells them that although their city has different culture and tradition, but she is indeed a noble from another city. She tells them that she had to leave her city after her father's death due to an inheritance issue. They ask her about her mother, but she tells them her mother died about 7 years ago, and she is only with her little brother, who she had assumed would take over the kingship after her father's death. But some relatives say she should become the king, which is impossible. Bose understands the tradition she means, and she tells him because she doesn't want issues, she left a letter in her city and took a boat to their country. She tells them that she just wants to make good use of her new city and open a business in the royal capital where she can make an honest living. She tells them that the only thing she took from her country is a few clothes and the jewelry her late mother left for her. So she thinks that she will sell the jewelry and use the money to make a living in the royal capital. Suddenly, Iris shouts, and she tells her that the jewelry cannot be sold. She tells him that if the jewelry is taken to the market, it will cause a rift, and the pearl is very rare, and just as nice as it is in the community. So for her mother to have enough to make a necklace, then it can't be sold. She asks Iris to take it, but she says she has no money to pay for such jewelry. She then suggests that they auction it, but Iris says if they do, it will lead to murder, and the people who want it will kill the people that own it. She eventually suggests that she cuts it off and sell it piece by piece, but Iris refuses. She actually needs to let the pearls go since she needs money to create her company in the royal capital. She decides to use an ancient trick in her mind, which is to give Iris for a small price. She tells Iris that she looks like her late mother, and she makes her remember her late mother, so she wants to give it to her because she is just like her mother. Iris runs to hug her, and they shed tears, and she accepts to take the pearl. Bose gives his kids the opportunity to ask her questions. Alexis asks her about her pretty black hair, and she tells them that their hair is like that in her city. Theodore asks her if she has any more knives, and she brings out one from her lap. They are shocked about her reaction, and she lies to them that it's for protection in her city. She sells it to Theodore for 1 gold. Alexis asks her if she has any other thing for sale, and she says that all she has is her underwear. He says he will buy it, but Bose also raises his hands. She sells it to Alexis. Beatrice asks her about what she wants to sell, and when she mentions the things she has in mind, she realizes that if she sells food, she will make sales since their food is bad. But Bose tells her about their farming difficulty. She tells him they could renew the farm by growing different things and using fertilizer. He gets distracted while talking to her and says he could speak to her for hours. She mistakenly throws her cup off, and Iris says it's careless of her. Bose comments that it's typical Mitsuha, and it makes her remember her parents. She calls them father and mother mistakenly as she remembers when a similar thing happened to them at home. They all go to hug her, and she sheds tears. She remembers that she didn't cry during her parents' funeral, so she cried her eyes out that night. The following day, the family sees her off to the carriage. Bose gives her a letter so she will get funds at the Capitol, and she also gives her 2 servants to help her. The kids promise to see her soon when they come back to the Capitol, and she is glad that they had made the Count and the Countess trust her. She continues her journey happily.